it's hard to have any of this conversation without, I think, first acknowledging that first and foremost, this is, of course, is a health concern. And I think we just got to stipulate our first mission, I think, in everything we think about is to make sure we, our families and communities are healthy. And that just feels like a necessary reminder for us all. But yes, there's going to become a time when we get past this, kind of core lockdown we're in right now and get back to business that feels, quote unquote, normal. Um, and I think, what I've been spending a bunch of time thinking about, it just strikes me as what's happened is we've essentially sped up the digitization of the world. So many of us that are in the, this media, ad tech, martech landscape have been on the cutting edge of adopting new technologies and the types of things that come with being able to live a digital life, whether that's things like, ride sharing or keyless entries into hotel rooms or whatever it is. But certainly, I think we've represented a percentage of the population which has been on the front end of that curve. What I'm seeing happening now is that we've essentially, as a result of forcing it on everybody, shifted the speed of adoption of these types of kind of technologies and opportunities. Where when you don't have another choice, which none of us do at the moment, the only way to interact with the outside world is digitally. And so whether you think of that as food delivery services or other subscription services, or the fact that I heard someone say the other day that they didn't realize all the products that Amazon sold, or the fact that you can stream any content you want, and not only are there subscription-based services, but there are ad-based services. For many, those were interesting things to pay attention to, but not a need, not a priority. But when you're forced to make a choice between, really, I suppose in many ways, not having access or accessing these types of, goods, services, through a digital perspective, it changes the game. And so I guess it's a long way of saying that my expectation is we fundamentally altered the trajectory of consumer behavior for not just the near term, but the long term. And that the idea that when we are back out of our houses and interacting with people, that we ditch these new things that we've learned how to leverage, I think just doesn't make any sense. If you start using Instacart right now, I don't know that you stop. Sure, maybe you don't use it as frequently, but you're likely to continue. Or if a restaurant, I saw a really interesting thing the other day, a local restaurant chain or group who's obviously closed right now other than for delivery, promoted essentially a weekly meal service that for $150 for the week, you get 3 meals for a family of 4 for dinner. I mean, that's not the type of business they would have ever been in. And all of a sudden they're using digital technology and the ability to create a delivery service to be in a new business. And so I just don't see how those things unwind. And I think the more that we demonstrate to people that you can interact in this digital way, and more people get comfortable with it, again, it's just going to stick. And I think that has implications not just for the short term, but the long term as well.
And Matt, tell us a little bit about how you guys are functioning in this period at TransUnion, and being part of the group and what you're trying to accomplish in this time, and how the situation might change your business.
Yeah, you know what? I think the first and foremost thing that I think any crisis does is it makes you reflect on the core values and really make you appreciate the importance of kind of genuine, authentic leadership. Um, what we all I think want in times like this is the most accurate, honest assessment of the situation. And one of the things as a leader you're forced to recognize right now is as we go through this process, there are way more unknowns than there are knowns. And so much of I think of what we both have to do from a team management perspective and also business planning process is just acknowledge that reality with our people, be honest, be transparent where at all times possible, be authentic and be vulnerable, admit the fact that there are things we don't know and it can be scary for all of us and that we've got to adjust. And as you do that, I think the thing that we all then seek to do is seek out more and more information. For my section of the industry within TransUnion, that means how do we get a handle on what does the ad spending look like over the next 6 to 12 months? What categories are clearly going to go dark and what categories might replace them? What's the impact of the fact that there are no big TV tentpole events right now? And how does that impact how spending will change? just on that point, interestingly enough, in most of the last several cycles where we've had economic downturns, being in the digital ecosystem as always have been, we've been the blessing and the curse. It was always easy to cancel digital deals. Well, in a world where the tent poles aren't running, what happens now, right? Where that money is going to be somewhatly sidelined, does that change the perspective of how marketers adjust their spend? And so it's a long way of saying, again, what we're focused on right now is a combination of, first and foremost, again, making sure everyone feels safe and comfortable and that we've done the right things by our employees and their families and whatnot. And then we're in the process of getting as much data and information we can about what the trends are going to be for the rest of this year, and then making product and go-to-market decisions that reflect those realities. TransUnion is a strong company. We've got a diverse portfolio of products and solutions. We're in a lot of categories. We'll weather the storm, but of course, there's a storm for everyone in the market right now. And first and foremost, we've got to assess what that looks like and make the best decisions you can for providing that right value, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things we spent a lot of time talking about is where companies have to be careful right now is getting out ahead of the opportunity to sell, which is to say, we're all in business to make money, but we're also got to be conscious capitalists, right? We can't be chasing the dollar at all costs. We've got to figure out how do we provide value to clients and partners in information, in analysis, and assessment, and hopefully that leads to business both near and long term. And of course, our job is to see how we can best maximize that every day. But certainly in times like this, we're certainly very conscious of you've got to strike the right balance, and you can't be in a rush. We spent a lot of time talking about there's a marathon aspect to this, not a sprint. And we've got to just do right by all constituents, and that will at the end work out. But I think we all know it's again, more unknowns at the moment, and hopefully we'll understand the perspective and scenario soon. But at the moment, we've just got to continue to ask good questions, listen to the marketplace, and adjust our projections as often as we need to.